Okay, so we are on the half hour. So I'm John McNamara, one of the senior inventors in IBM Hersey Lab, and I'm here today with Matthew Golby-Kirk, and we're going to talk about the integration between .NET and IIB. It's a live hangout, so please do tweet in on the hashtag IBM Integration. Now, Matthew, I know you've got a ton of experience with IIB. You've worked with it for many, many years. You're a guru on ESQL, on web services and .NET. What are you up to at the moment?
So currently I'm responsible for all of the .NET support in the Integration Bus product, as well as all the Windows platform that Integration Bus runs on as one of many platforms. So I kind of have a general focus on Microsoft technologies in general for IIB specifically.
Fantastic. So off the bat question, why is IBM investing so heavily in integration with Microsoft.NET?
Okay, great question, John. So essentially it comes down to client demand.
Right.
So we have a lot of clients running IIB in all industries and in with all sizes of clients.
Right.
And we've got a lot of clients that are using Microsoft technologies day to day in their businesses, and they need better ways of sort of connecting those different technologies together. And if a client is not all sort of homogeneous with the Microsoft stack,
yep,
then it can be difficult to integrate that with other systems. So that's where we come in. That's how we help them to get their different systems kind of connected together. It's also about size and scale as well. So Microsoft claims something like 1.8 billion .NET framework installs worldwide. And that's a lot of machines that are running .NET. And we, as an integration product, would like to be able to help those machines connect to the widest variety of other systems possible. So
fantastic. So it brings us into IBM Integration Bus. So why are we using that for integration? Is it worth giving a quick recap what it actually is?
Sure. Yeah. So Integration Bus is all about what we call universal connectivity. So that's allowing any system to talk to any other system in general. So what we try to do is help, system A communicate with another system without needing to change either end.
Right.
So we can sit in the middle and do the transformation, the routing, etc. in the middle rather than having to do it at the edge.
Right.
And that scales more than if you were to try to change all of the endpoints that are trying to talk to each other, because obviously you get sort of a crossover effect.
Yeah.
Exactly, you get spaghetti point-to-point connections. And if you can do that routing in an ESB like Integration Bus, then that allows you to do those kind of transformations and routings much faster, much easier. We take away some of the pain involved in integrating different systems together.
Fantastic. That leads really nicely on to the next question. What kind of systems and applications can you actually integrate? There's hundreds and hundreds of different things that you can do with Integration Bus and lots of different systems that you can connect together. But focusing for this talk on .NET specifically, so we see clients doing things with, for example, the Microsoft Office file format. So doing transformations or building Office documents. So you might be files coming in and they might be broken up. Let's say it's a spreadsheet coming in, you might break that up or pull fields out of the cells and sort of change those in some way and send them onto other systems at the back end. That's sort of one of the use cases. Microsoft Dynamics product suite set. So there's like 5 products in the Dynamics range. And we've got people using AX CRM, for example, with Integration Bus out of the Dynamics suite and making those systems sort of connect to other backends. For example, we've got a pattern that comes with the product out of the box to do SAP to CRM at the back end, for example, to keep those two things in sync. That kind of activity really kind of helps, and that's where we kind of sit helping connect all those different things together. But it's not just the stack products that Microsoft have, it's also third-party applications as well. So a lot of businesses have written their own third-party standalone solutions to problems or whatever that might be, and we can help connect those systems together with other sort of products, with other databases, for example, and without having to change each of the endpoints. As I say, we can do the routing and the transformation in the Integration Bus layer. And we just wanted to bring the Microsoft product suites and the .NET framework as a whole in together with the rest of the IIB capabilities. So previously, sort of IIB was very good at connecting lots of systems together, but it didn't have, before the technology we added, didn't have great support for .NET languages, .NET runtime. So you could write transformation code in one of the languages that we have built in called ESQL. You could write transformations in Java. But previously, you couldn't write transformations in C# or VB or F#, for example, and now you can, and that's part of what we're trying to bring here, and to help customers leverage their existing investments in .NET technology.
Fantastic. So I'm sold.
Okay, thank you. I'm pleased.
How do I get started?
So Integration Bus actually has a free developer edition, which is probably the simplest way for somebody who hasn't already got Integration Bus to get up and going.
Right.
And you can literally go to a website, and we'll post the links at the end of this chat.
Fantastic.
And once you go to that site, you have to sign in with IBM ID or just fill in a few simple details, and you can click download, and you can download the full IIB version 10 product for Windows or Linux. That includes, obviously on the Windows side, it includes all of the .NET support that we've been talking about.
Fantastic.
You can get up and going really, really quickly.
That's good to know. That's phenomenal. So how does the integration with IIB really work?
So that's a great question. So IIB as a technology has a runtime engine, and that engine hosts the Java virtual machine.
Right.
And so it's actually, IIB is a C++ product hosting Java. And in the same way as we host Java, we also host on the Windows platform the Microsoft CLR directly in process.
Okay.
So very much like Microsoft SQL Server talks out or hosts the CLR to call managed stored procedures, we do the same thing. We host that version 4 CLR directly in process, and that allows us to get full access to the whole of the CLR environment, the common language runtime. It's the virtual machine for .NET.
Awesome. So can you tell me a bit about the API that the developers would use to interface with Integration Bus?
Yeah, so what we've got with Integration Bus is a really comprehensive API for doing transformation and routing directly inside of the Integration Bus. So that engine that I talked about that hosts the CLR, that is where the CLR code, the .NET code that you write, so C#, for example, you would write a shim layer, a thin layer with our API that will access the data coming in from the remote systems, and you pull out the fields that you want, and then you can call the .NET APIs using that information that came from the message that entered that node. So it's really straightforward, really simple. And the design of that API was to make it look and feel just like any other .NET API. So, as a .NET developer, you shouldn't be surprised when you're using this API. It should look and feel natural. It's not like a port of a Java API that doesn't feel natural for .NET developers. We spent a lot of time and effort when we designed it to make it look and feel natural for .NET developers. So if you gave this API to a C# developer or VB developer, they wouldn't see anything different about it that was specifically, weird or wonderful when, compared to any other .NET API. So
fantastic.
An example of that, for example, is things like the way we've designed it to use, the standard property interfaces on objects, and just made it really simple and easy to use, and made sure that we followed all the design guidelines that Microsoft provide. When you're designing an API for .NET, they have a whole sort of 300+ page book, the framework design guidelines, and we tried to follow that book. And we use their guidelines when designing that API, so it works well with a whole range of .NET languages, and really fits in nicely with a .NET developer environment. So a C# developer, a VB developer can sit down and use Integration Bus, their comfort zone, and that was what we were trying to do, was to bring people on board who had an existing skill set. And when people come to use Integration Bus, we offer them a variety of languages in which to do transformation and routing. And the reason we do that is to actually help clients who use Integration Bus make the best use of their existing skill set. So,
that sounds awesome, buddy.
You don't want to have to relearn different languages just to use Integration Bus, and we try to make that as easy as we can.
Fantastic. All right, so let's say I've got a business, run mainly on Linux, but I do have some custom .NET apps. How will I go about integrating those?
Okay, that's another really good question. So, that's a scenario where we kind of, envisage the .NET application you're talking about in that scenario as being like islands of .NET support. So you're in an environment that's got, maybe it's a Linux backbone, or it's a Z Linux, or whether that's, or whatever, and it's a non-Windows stack. So, but within that organization, you have islands of .NET, usually at the departmental level. So different departments might have their own, sort of applications that they're doing, departmental specific tasks using one of a number of Microsoft or third-party .NET technologies.
Right.
And to connect those together, what you can do is you can use one of the editions of Integration Bus called the Express Edition, which is the sort of the lowest cost edition of Integration Bus. And you can have that cited on the island of .NET directly next to or on the same machine as the one that's running the .NET code that you want to integrate.
Yep.
And then you can expose that as a service to the main Integration Bus running on your Linux platform, HP, Solaris, AIX, whatever it is that you're running elsewhere within your organization. So it allows you to then, once you've exposed it as a service, just interact with it from your sort of main backbone within your enterprise out to those islands of .NET. So that's the kind of the larger clients. We see that quite as a common pattern that people have is, no one company is usually standardized on just one technology. So you need to integrate things, hence the need for Integration Bus. So we work really well there as well. And of course, sort of clients that do have 100% Microsoft stack, obviously we fit in well really there too, because, we are designed on the Windows stack to fit in with all the basic Windows providers, services, and things like services, the event log, that kind of thing, the problem determination and administration capabilities of Windows, we kind of fit in there as well. So
fantastic.
Whether you're completely Windows, whether you're Windows and other platforms as well, you can sort of dovetail us really, really nicely.
Perfect. So what about .NET Core?
So .NET Core is, or was, an announcement that Microsoft made earlier this year. And it's essentially an open source version of the .NET CLR.
Okay.
And .NET Core allows developers to distribute the .NET framework or the core of it in a much simpler way with their applications.
Right.
And it also allows those applications to run on non-Windows platforms. So, I can't talk too much about it because we don't have support right now for it, but it's something that we're really interested in looking at. And it's something that, I'd actually be interested in people who might watch this. If you've got a need for that, if you have use cases where you'd actually like your developers to start using .NET Core or you're thinking of using .NET Core,
yeah,
do get in touch with us. I'd be really interested to talk to people directly. We can set up conference calls and find out what the use cases are, because it's something we're evaluating at the moment, essentially.
Fantastic.
We'd like to be able to support it, but we need to know the demands there. So
Cool.
Really interesting sort of push for Microsoft to make everything more open. I think that's fantastic. But we just need to, to see that our clients will need us to do that on Integration Bus, let's say on Linux, could host .NET Core in theory, once we've done the support. So it's all possible. Obviously, we're not there yet,
yeah,
but we'd like to know what the demand's like. So
perfect.
Anybody listening, please get in touch.
You heard it here first, folks. Buddy, that is awesome. So is it okay if we launch into Twitter and see if there are any questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right,
Absolutely.
genius. Okay. We'll do a very quick refresh. Okay, so we've got a first question. Can I use WCF custom binding?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question again. And so WCF is Windows Communication Foundation. And the answer is yes, you can. Now, why might you want to do that? So WCF has essentially a wide number of bindings. It's up in the 20s in terms of the number of bindings it supports. But of those 20 plus bindings, only 2 of them are interoperable with non-WCF clients.
Right.
At my last count anyway. And so what that means is you need either to use the interoperable bindings at both ends,
yeah,
or you need WCF at both ends.
Right, okay.
So what you can do in that scenario is you can host a WCF client directly inside of the Integration Bus running on Windows,
yeah,
and use that to call out over WCF to the server that's running with one of those non-interoperable bindings, and so gain access to it directly from inside the Integration Bus flow. And of course, because it's running inside the Integration Bus, it has full access to the messages that are flowing through the bus, and it's acting, because it's hosted in process, really, really quickly on those messages. The performance is excellent, so that's really good to know. So,
genius,
yeah,
awesome. Okay, so next one, the list we have got. Okay, so do I have to recompile my existing .NET code? He said, with a bad window practice. There we go. Do I only have to recompile my existing .NET code to use Integration Bus?
Short answer is no.
Great.
There's a couple of caveats, not big ones. So the code must run inside the .NET 4 CLR engine.
Okay.
The reason for that is because that's the version of the engine that we host. So as long as it will run inside that engine, then that's absolutely fine. The other caveat, small one, but nevertheless worth pointing out, is that the code shouldn't have a GUI, because we run as a Windows service, so it has no way to present the GUI. But within those caveats, essentially you can host that code. Those assemblies do not need to be recompiled. They can be used in process. And essentially you write one of those little shims that I talked about earlier, using the API that we provide to talk between the message data flowing through the flow and out to the API that you want to call. So the API itself, the set assemblies you need to call don't need to change. You can either write a very thin shim layer between the two, or in some cases you can use some of the provided patterns to make that with no code at all. So there's a lot of sort of choices there available, but essentially for most cases you do not need to recompile anything.
Fantastic. But anyway, that's all of our questions we've got. So you get me some links I'm going to include in with the video, so people have got a great place to start if you want to get going with this. And of course you can always contact us here.
Absolutely, happy to take any questions on this topic, or indeed many other topics, so that's fine too.
Day or night, just phone Matthew. No problem there.
Email's better.
Matthew, thank you so very much, buddy. It's been an absolute joy.
John, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me here.
Thanks, guys. Take care now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.